Hi, I'm Nikki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to my channel. Today we're doing my top 10 books that I would save in a fire. I had a lot of debate on what type of books to save. Do I save special editions? Do I save expensive books? Do I save sentimental books? My husband was like, you should pick the most expensive books on your shelves because the insurance company is not going to believe that you paid that much for a book. He's got a point, but I did not go with the most expensive. And I'm not going to cheat, but a lot of these books are kind of worthless to me without the rest of the collection with them. But whatevs, we've made some hard decisions here. First up, my signed edition of Empire in Black and Gold by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a broken binding edition and happens to be one of my all-time favorite books. I loved the snot out of this thing. And I think this was the first book I ever purchased from Broken Binding, and now I'm down that rabbit hole of special editions, and I just think they are beautiful, and I can't wait to collect more. But this one I read at the beginning of last year, and it still remains one of my favorite books. The rest of the series hasn't quite landed on the same pedestal as the first book, but it's still highly enjoyable, and it's one I can see myself rereading at some point. My copy of Fablehaven by Brandon Mull. I've had this ever since it first came out. This series is incredibly special to me. It's kind of on par with Harry Potter. I've got a signed personalized edition. And actually, this isn't even the original one that I got. I got an ARC. 16-year-old bright-eyed, bushy-tailed bookseller, and I got an ARC of Fablehaven and I read it and I loved it. I'm on my third reread of the series right now. And so this edition is quite special. As you can see, I'm leaning more towards saving the sentimental stuff. One of my favorite books, The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington, part of the Lycania series. This is a signed broken binding edition, like beautiful naked hardcover and whatnot. And I even have a first edition regular hardcover of this, but I wanted the entire set to match, so I bought the whole collection. This is one of those more pricey items, but yeah, I love this book, I love this set, and I've only acquired it recently, so it's got that like sale sticker appeal where I'm still super excited that I've added it to my collection. But I love these, absolutely love these. A not so pristine edition of Red Seas Under Red Skies by Scott Lynch. This is one of my all-time favorite fantasy novels. This second book in particular knocked my socks off, reminded me why I love reading in the first place, and so many good things going on in here. And finding a hardcover in decent condition was the work of a couple of years, but I finally found one and I'm so excited. But now the Broken Binding is coming out with another like a set, and they're beautiful. I'm not letting this one go, but I am now turning into one of those people who has multiple editions of their favorite books on their shelves. Because what do you let go? Do you let go of these like beautiful first editions in favor of special editions? No, I don't think so. I don't think you do that. Love that one. My copy of Pendragon by DJ McHill. This is a 10-book series, world hopping, saving the universe type of stuff, and I had such a blast with this series. I didn't even read it as a kid. I read it in my 20s and enjoyed it thoroughly, and had a chance to meet the author and get this signed. So he signed my entire collection, which is very kind of him because most authors like have to limit to just 1 or 2 books. I did put a lot of weight into books that I had personalized. I think this is one that I would really regret not having in the future. Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. I was like, which hardcover do I pick to save? My favorite book in the series. In fact, this is the book that launched me into content creation back in 2012. I had just finished it. Nobody that I knew had read it, and I needed to talk about this book. So I started a book blog, and that evolved into getting involved in a group on Goodreads, Fantasy Buddy Reads, and then from there, being inspired by Petrick to start my own YouTube channel. I can trace all of that down to reading this book and having such a profound experience with it. So this particular edition is not the one I read, and it's not totally pristine, but it's a decent copy. But if I'm going to save a Hobb book, I'm going to save the one that's of my favorite story. My favorite young adult book, and it's not even fantasy, it's The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. She's getting a lot of popularity now because of her inheritance games, but I loved her back when this was the only book out in this series. I met her at the Vegas Valley Book Festival, and I had kind of read a couple of books before going to that, knowing that the authors were going to be there. and had a total fangirl moment when I met her. She's like, she's so cool. I want to be just like her when I grow up. She's like a PhD grad who teaches psychology at Yale. I might have my facts a little off on that, but I mean, if any of that is true, it's amazing. And I love this book. These kids are chosen by the FBI to help them solve crimes, and they all have different special abilities, but not like magical special abilities, but like techniques that they've honed over the years as a means to survive horrible situations. So you've got a character who's really good at reading people, because that's how she was able to survive, is like being able to pick up on subtle mood changes in people. You've got someone who's incredibly good with numbers, because that's what she fixated on to kind of cope with a horrible situation. Like, I love it. And the crime solving, I am such a mystery snob these days. Like, I want to be kept guessing all the way to the end. I want to have theories the whole way through, and I love this book, and I love this series. So that's why this one's on the list. My edition of Moon Called by Patricia Briggs. Of all of the author interactions that I've had over the years, which being a bookseller has allowed me a lot of opportunities, this was my favorite author interaction. I absolutely love Patricia Briggs. She was so gracious, she was so much fun, and she signed my entire hardcover collection and said, "Thank you for putting my kids through college." But I also really love this series. It's top 3 favorite urban fantasy series, and I love the fact that I have not only a signed edition, but one with a little coyote drone in it, so drone. My favorite book to recommend, Waking Fire by Anthony Ryan. This is part of the Draconius Memoria trilogy. I love the snot out of this thing. I feel like this series was written just for me. Sense of adventure, dragons, and dragon blood is what contains the magical properties, kind of like allomancy in Mistborn. Steampunk elements, it's kind of a flintlock fantasy. It's got so many things, and it's the sense of wonder and adventure. Like, you're discovering so many amazing things in this series, and it just gets more expansive and beautiful, and I love it. But additionally, this one is neat. I won a contest that this author was running for a different series, and he sent me, I mentioned how much I loved his Draconius Memoria series, and he sent me signed book plates, so that is what is in all of my hardcovers. Adrian Tchaikovsky's Children of Time. I had a really difficult time finding a hardcover of this series, and it is signed and numbered. It's not the beautiful sprayed edges edition, but I was so happy to get this one. This is one of the books that I have paid a hefty price for, and I have no regrets. This first book, one of my favorite things I've ever read. So creative. I love every single aspect of this story, so really glad to have this one as part of my collection as well, and all things Tchaikovsky. Now, here's the thing. I have 11 titles here. I'm kind of counting the 2 Tchaikovskys as one, so I'm kind of cheating a little bit. Last but not least, my copy of Name of the Wind, which this is my least favorite cover that they've done for it. But I won a contest and ended up with a signed edition of Name of the Wind. I don't even know if this is a first edition. I don't really care. But really happy to have this. I'm so sick of the Rothfuss drama that I don't even pay attention to what's going on anymore. But the first book was really special for me when I read it. It was such an experience. And I loved the second book as well, even though I had just a couple of issues with pacing in it. But for the most part, when eventually a third book does get released, I'm going to enjoy going back and rereading and just totally basking in it. But I love that I have this. So that's the lineup. Out of the couple of thousand books that I own, I'm surprised that these are the ones that made my top. And a lot of them are sentimental, a lot of them are signed editions, and things that have a little more impact that it would be hard to replace because I met the authors. Represents a moment in time in my life. And truthfully, it was a lot of fun for me to go through and figure out which books really do mean the most to me. It was not a lot of the more beautiful special editions that I've picked up lately. I want to know, what are some of your books that you would save in a fire, your all-time favorite things to physically own? Thank you for joining me on this one. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.